Okay, so we have already looked at domain and range from order pair. So the x-coordinate being the domain and the y-coordinate being the range. So today we are going to find the domain and range by given a graph. Okay, so if you remember the domain, I'm going to go ahead and enlarge this one. Okay, so your domain is the x. Okay, so we are looking for, focusing on the x-axis, how far does my graph go? What's the lowest it goes on the x and what's the highest it goes on the x? So I am just looking at, okay, this point all the way to this point. Okay, so this is where what we did last unit comes into play. So x has to be less than or equal to, because we have a closed circle here, less than or equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it has to be greater than or equal to a -1. So that's looking at the x. If I look at the y, I'm looking at how high, or what's the highest point. So the highest point that goes here, the color looks too similar, is right there, and the lowest it goes is right there. Okay, so y has to be less than or equal to 2, again, because it has the closed circle, and has to be greater than or equal to a -1. So I'm always looking at the coordinate that I am, whether I'm looking for the domain, I'm looking for how far is it on the x. If I'm looking for the range, it's how high or how low the graph goes on the y. And the last one, it says determine if the graph is a function. And that's where we do the vertical line test. So if I were to draw vertical lines all the way through there, I would only be intersecting the graph at one point. So this is a function. Okay? Yes, but yes, a function. Okay, so let's look at another one. Let's look at number 5 on the graph. So the domain is looking at on the x. So it goes as wide as this. So it goes, x is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it can be equal to, it has to be less than or equal to 6. And greater than or equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, -6. And the y, this is how high it goes, and this is how low it goes. So y has to be less than or equal to 1, 2, 3, and 4, and less than or equal to 0. If I draw a vertical line, notice if I draw a vertical line, it's intersecting in 2 places. So this is not a function. Okay? Not a function. One more I want to look at, and that is one of these on the back. Let's look at number 9. Number 9, we're still looking at the domain, so x. Well, it clearly stops here, but notice these arrowheads. This keeps going on forever. And in math, we have infinity. So we have x has to be less than or equal to infinity, and greater than or equal to 0, because it keeps going on and on forever that way. Let's look at the domain. Well, because this keeps going and going forever, do I ever know where it stops here or here? So y has to be less than or equal to infinity, and greater than or equal to a -infinity. Doing my vertical line test, it is not a function because I'm intersecting at 2 different points. And that should conclude finding the domain and range based off of a graph.